With the launch of the PlayStation 4 in late 2013, a glaring omission was noticeable in its launch lineup. Amidst Assassin's Creed Black Flag, Battlefield, the variety of sports titles, and of course, Knack, one single game series was missing. A series that was simultaneous with Sony and that had launched with every Sony system up to that point. That series was Ridge Racer. It might not have seemed like such an omission by 2013, when the series was the subject of memes, jokes, and derisons. It might have seemed like Namco Bandai had better things to place their money on than the once popular series. They had anime games to release. In fact, Namco did eventually release a variety of games to the system, including the teeth-grindingly hard Dark Souls, now remastered, fighters such as Tekken 7 and Soul Calibur, and so many Dragon Ball games. But, even so, the omission of the titular Ridge Racer series was something that, to its no waves, I noticed. The series had been in a steady downfall. It started fading. In fact, few, if any, people I knew had gotten or cared for 2012's Ridge Racer Unbounded. But, in what was the fall, a draft of new games, followed by the surprise announcement of Ridge Racer 8, I couldn't help but wonder. What caused it? What led this once famous and groundbreaking series to falter and almost die out? Why the reinvention as a burnout-style game? And though it would be easy to blame the duds, the portable interest that didn't sell, and the poor attempt at a reformulation of the series from racing and drifting action into just another open-world entry, I didn't think it to be the case. Something had to have shifted. Something had to have changed. And I believe the game responsible for that change was Ridge Racer 7. To understand what's aggravating about Ridge Racer 7, and to a smaller extent Ridge Racer 6, one must truly understand where the series came from and what's associated with. Obviously, it's associated with PlayStation, but it truly began life as an arcade game. Early Ridge Racer games didn't have circuits or world tours. In fact, they were pretty limited and not all that revolutionary. There were one or two tracks, more depending if they were mirrored, it was just so extraordinary sense of speed. Other games had and would do 3D racing better, but Ridge Racer presented an unmatched sense of speed. Ported pretty much perfectly to the original PlayStation, Ridge Racer would only get better as it showed up. Revolution wasn't expensive, nothing much was added, but it was more of the same. Good. Ridge Racer expanded on the rules. The series would debut on other consoles. There was Ridge Racer 64, but first there was Type 4. Type 4 marked a change for the series as, instead of playing arcade games to unlock cards and just racing, a story was added. Races were there with Ridge Racer true, but Type 4 picked up the slight elements of a story that were added and run with it. Choose your own team, race it to victory. And it was good. By no means do I want to make it sound like I'm complaining about that. Never. Type 4 was still a good time, and it's still one of my favorite racing games of all time. I might sound like a nostalgic sorrowful, talking about those games like they were the greatest thing of all time, but the fact was, Ridge Racer, despite the story, still kept to its appeal. It still kept what made it fundamentally different, its gameplay. Ridge Racer has one thing that separates it from other series. It's drifting. Sure, most games nowadays have drifting, and some make good use of it, such as the Sonic All-Star Racing series of card games. But, in Ridge Racer, drifting is a skill that must be learned and mastered. It's simple to start and pull off, yet hard to master. Cars feel naturally lightweight. They steer right to the touch. There's also something really important that I need to mention. Cars, at least in this arcade and PS1 era, are original creations. They're not elaborate creations, the models look pretty basic, and yet it'd be hard to deny that they represent real brands or real cars. Because they don't. Remember that as we talk about Ridge Racer 7. I don't hate Ridge Racer 7. It may seem like I'm inferring upon it, but I truly do find it a fantastic game. I have great memories of it. But where it falters hard. Gameplay is sound, but the focus isn't there. Or rather, it isn't there anymore, I should say. You see, one of the selling points of Ridge Racer 7 was its customization, which could be taken online. Online play was being pushed pretty hard in 7th generation of consoles, and Ridge Racer, one of the premier racing games, seemed like a prime candidate for it. What could go wrong? Add to that a pretty in-depth customization mode, the campaign, and you've got a pretty solid package. And it is. It's a pretty solid package that's worth the discounted price it can be found at today. Even if the online is missing, the campaign in it for itself is worth it. But it just isn't Ridge Racer. Call me a nostalgic party pooper if you like. Call me stuck in the past. But Ridge Racer 7 is the culmination of something that fell upon a lot of series. It's the same thing that befell Jack and Daxter. Maybe I'll get to those at some point. But if you compare Ridge Racer, Revolution, or Type 4 to 7, or to a lesser extent 6, something is clear. They may control similarly. They may have the same drifting mechanic. They may have an old Namco arcade title at the beginning. From a glance, they appear like the same game, but they're not. Ridge Racer, in its latest years, saw fit to try and give a reason to use the Rift. Now, this is something that would make sense in context. While corners in Ridge Racer and overtakings could be done with the drift, using it removed speed. Ridge Racer's solution to this was the nitro bar. Performing drift would increase the nitro bar, which could be used in straights to overtake. Not a bad idea, in theory. In practice, this presented its own set of problems. Customization demanded to boost be adjustable. They had the potential to become very broken very easily. So new cards and new customizations are locked beyond the campaign. One must prove themselves to get new parts, which ones can buy. New cards too. And in practice this doesn't sound different from earlier titles, where new cards were discovered and gotten through beating races. Even if there's the addition of some time trials, what's that except more content? Except that's not what Ridge Racer was. Ridge Racer went from the arcade game where one spent 5-10 minutes in 2 or 3 quick races, mastering the drift, to just one more racing game. It honestly feels kind of like a Codemasters title. The focus on realism, even if no actual brands were present, ends up hurting it. Cars are bigger and more detailed, but that makes them a pain to pass. More doesn't always mean better. I am glad for the extra tags, and I'm glad for the wide variety of cars. That they can be one of several different types is good, but it's in unlocking it that the game falters. The game forces the player through a series of hoops for the content advertised. One might say progression, and that of course the best cards aren't available from the start. But what the game fails to realize is what Ridge Racer represents. As a series primarily dedicated to speed, it's not about the story mode, it's not about slowly upgrading it, it's about going fast and drifting. In the old titles, drifting wasn't needed to win a race, but it was always used, even if discovered by accident. We didn't need Nitro to win races. Despite the positive reviews from critics, I think the game fails. Ridge Racer 7 is an excellent racing game, and one I spent hours on, but it's just not a very good Ridge Racer title. At least, in my opinion. Something to it from Type 4, I couldn't help but be disappointed. It sold well, but Ridge Racer as a series was quite curated. It sold well, but Ridge Racer as a series was quite clearly suffering an identity crisis, which might explain the burnout type came in 2012.
Namco, it's Ridge Racer. Ridge Racer. Remember that one?
I do. So 2013 came, there was no Ridge Racer. I guess Need for Speed would have to do, you know, for racing.